MSMEs to actually contribute towards the tax-paying system in the country. In studio, I'm joined by an expert, James Kariuki, not a new face to the show. He's a trade and MSMEs consultant and expert. It's great to see you once again. Let's get into the thick of it right now. What different classes of MSMEs are in the country right now? Is it possible to categorize them actually?
Jesse, thank you this morning. It's a pleasure again being on your show. Yeah. And I wish to thank you, and I also thank your media house for hosting me. As we start our discussions, let me first start by thanking and appreciating the youth, because you're a member of the youth, Jesse. Yeah. You are the future. And also I want to thank women entrepreneurs, because I'm lucky that I was brought up by a single mother who educated me all the way to the university. And there are very many from the kind of interactions I've had. There are very many women entrepreneurs who are MSMEs. Actually, there are more women MSMEs than even men. Mm. And every day they start their morning not knowing what is going to happen. They may not have the job security and all that, but somehow at the end of the day they're able to make some money and bring up their children and put bread on the table. So on their behalf, I thank them. Now, the issue of carry and the treasury, because we cannot separate the two, because treasury collects money through carry. And it's unfortunate because carry has evolved from, initially it was part of a ministry that was separated about 20 years ago, and it became an independent institution. And over time, the carry has evolved to becoming a complex organization, where we even have, today we have a commissioner of LTO, large taxpayers like Safaricom. And every year we see them, we watch them on news, on your station and others, or appreciating Safaricom for having paid 20 billion, 30 billion, 50 billion in taxes, banks and all that. Okay. But one thing that they have forgotten along the way, despite the complex evolution, is to try and create a section in carry that deals with MSMEs. Because we keep saying that MSMEs employ between 70 and 84% of workers in Kenya. But they are not represented at all in carry, or treasury for that matter. So there's no special unit, there's no unit in carry that tries to understand how do these MSMEs work. And as we talk about MSMEs, I think allow me to define my own definition, because there's no college, there's no university, I'm here to study in a paper that has really been done to classify the sections of MSMEs. So just with your permission, allow me to give what I think is my definition of MSMEs. Yeah, and the different classes. And the different classes. Okay. So when you say micro, in my opinion, because that's the first M, micro, we're talking about the Mamboga who runs that village kiosk outside your estate. Whether you live in Runda or Karen or you live in Burburu, there's always a kibanda there where you pass, with, I'm sure you, with your nice looking face, it means you eat good vegetables and you eat good fruits and all that. Where you buy. And if you forgot to do shopping, you can buy a packet of unga and whatever. So in my opinion, this class is one that talks about that Mamboga. Is one that talks about the hawker, who is always coming to the pub you're taking your beer, who is always passing through your office, trying to sell you all kinds of, we call them marimari, whether they are imported stuff or whether they are locally made stuff, whether it's tissue paper and all that. Okay. So these people are people who basically, you sometimes even wonder, it's a miracle that these people survive, because you walk by, and sometimes you walk by in an estate and you find there's this lady selling sweets, or the gentleman selling sweets, selling small things, tissue and, the very basic items. So when somebody sells you a sweet for 5 shillings or 10 shillings, you ask yourself, by the time that person is able to make 500 or 1,000, how many of those units does this person need to sell? So these are the ones, in my opinion, that we call as a micro. Now, when you go to medium is a much broader class. I would say, like, as being the chairman of China Dubai Traders Group, a lot of my members belong to that now medium.
The medium, okay.
And small enterprises, because they have risen above that. And even I, as an entrepreneur, started as a hawker. I used to hawk video cassettes and stuff like that when I was younger. Yeah. I used to sell bread in school. I drove matatus. But when God gifts you and you're able to rise above, when I was able to take my first flight out of Kenya, where you go to Dubai, buy ABCD stuff. Maybe I brought in, maybe the tie you were wearing, I may have brought it in a few years ago, last month. Yeah. So you rise to a section now that you become now a supplier to the lower, now to the, what you call the micro.
Micro, yeah.
And the micro, remember, are the ones that now, everything they sell, most of them don't manufacture anything. So they buy from even the big enterprises. Because when you find somebody selling sweets, they bought it from a big factory. The sweets are most sweets are made by very big factories. So there's now that what you call the medium. These are people who have shops, and the small enterprises, who are under small, they may have even small factories that produce the stuff. Now, then when you talk about the medium may extend. The parameters now have changed. Because before, 20 years ago, probably the most valuable company in Kenya was worth 100, 200 billion. Now Safaricom is worth 2 trillion. So it has changed the parameters have changed.
Yeah, yeah.
We have clients in Kamukunji. We have clients in where the Mitumba Center, Gekomba,
yeah.
who have turnovers of $1 billion, but they're still considered medium enterprises.
Okay.
Because now, if we use the word big, and we are saying Safaricom is very big, then the parameters change.
Okay, that's well noted. So as we continue categorizing this small, micro-sized and medium-sized enterprises, let's talk about how the policies, perhaps instituted due to COVID-19, have actually affected them. Is it positively or negatively? How is the working environment right now due to these policies in regards to the COVID-19 pandemic?
Thank you, Jesse, again for your question. I think COVID has hit most of these enterprises very hard and negatively. And as an importer, and on behalf of my brothers and sisters who import stuff from Dubai and China, with the lockdown of the airspace where you cannot fly and go and buy your goods, we have a lot of enterprises whose goods are based on identifying. It's the same way you buy a goat. If you call a Maasai or a Somali supplier, who are the biggest suppliers of goats, or any other broker, you tell him to bring you a goat, you might tell him to bring you a 20 kg goat, and you send him money for a 20 kg goat. But you end up receiving a 10 kilogram goat because you didn't choose. So there are certain items in trading that require your own presence because of choosing the quality, the color, the size, the design. Because I'm wearing a blue coat today. I may want, my client may want a black coat and a gray coat. But many times, and this is my experience in the 10 years or so that I was in China, that a client orders without going to China, then you get the supplier may send you the stuff that they have in the warehouse, which you did not order. They may send you a coat that, if I'm wearing, for example, size 42, they may send you size 38, size 36, which doesn't fit you. Okay. So first, the importers have been hit very hard because without them accessing the market in China and Dubai and India, then the supply chain management has become disrupted. Because of the COVID, as you've asked, because of the COVID-19 disruptions. Two, the restriction of movement, whereby you had customers in Kisumu who would be able to come easily. So when they were locked in for those 6 months, they're not able to come in. So they may not necessarily buy from you anymore. They may go online and shop online and all that. So it has been chaotic, I would say. And a lot of MSMEs have closed down. They have had their houses auctioned. I would say they're in serious trouble. And they're doing the best they can. And I'm happy that the other day I read on your paper that the politicians in central Kenya have said they have now recognized that there was a big problem with this COVID-19 in terms of the business. And they are trying to see what can be done. I'm very happy. Thank you, Jesse.
Okay, that's well noted. So since we're having this discussion about tax, earlier on during the introduction, I mentioned that KRA had just met its targets that were set. And it's been a couple of years, I think over 5 years, since they were able to do that. So when we're talking about MSMEs, not many of them are factored within the tax bracket. As we talk about expanding this tax bracket, how can we ensure that KRA collects taxes voluntarily from these MSMEs as we expand the tax bracket, even in a case of removing the mistrust that might be there between this potential taxpayers and the tax collector that is KRA? What's your take on this?
Thank you, Jesse, again, for your question. I would first say that the first thing is that KRA has not really been very keen on, expanding the tax bracket on the MSMEs. And the unfortunate part is, if you say the target is for 2 trillion, there's nothing saying they cannot collect 3 trillion or 4 trillion or 5 trillion. Now, there's a lot of mistrust between KRA and MSMEs for many reasons. Not all of them the fault of KRA. The first thing is the KRA's main work and treasury is to collect revenue from taxpayers who stand all the way from Safaricom to that Mamboga who operates a 2,000-3,000 daily turnover kiosk or small business. But okay, let me start with the factors that are not the fault of KRA. Number one, corruption. So when we go and give our money to the government, then every day you're reading on your paper, I'm watching on your TV that somebody ate 2 billion, 5 billion. We elected him, he has eaten, or he was nominated, or he's a government official, he's eaten 2, 3, 4 billion. That it hastens most MSMEs because they ask, why do I need to pay my money? For it to be, to get eaten again, instead of it building me better roads, better hospitals, and all that. Secondly, the government has not bothered to focus on MSMEs. So it means we pay our taxes. But as I said earlier, when we are seeing Safaricom receiving checks, receiving, very good, accolades from government for giving them 30, 40 billion, I also want to be, as a small taxpayer, whether I paid 500 shillings in a year or I paid 10 million,
okay,
I want to be appreciated by the same government. Even a message on my phone, because now the system is connected.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, James. You paid us 10,000. You built our nation. All we get are threats. You are late to penalize. You are late to fill in your returns. We are going to cancel your ID, your PIN, and all that. So we need our KRA to change its approach to becoming a softer faced. We also need to have a PR office in KRA that is able to, when I complain, my issues, they're able to handle me. I can walk into KRA and get my cup of coffee. I also don't mind having an office in Nyamakima for KRA.
Okay.
Not for threatening me because I didn't pay taxes, but for even guiding me and telling me, because a lot of MSMEs are not necessarily very educated. But then some of them don't pay because they don't want to pay. Some of them do not even know.
Ignorance, yeah.
There's that ignorance. So we want them more friendly. We don't send the enforcers, the ones with the teeth. We send the ones that have the sweet language. They can come and tell me, James, can you assist me paying? Another thing, Jesse, KRA has not been very innovative. It has employed very brilliant people and people who have a lot of education, but they're not innovative. Do you know why I tell you that, Jesse? Assuming, as a small trader, I'm entitled to pay 12,000 per year. And the deadline to pay this 12,000 is usually 30th June, when we pay our income tax.
Yeah.
If KRA told me today that you're entitled to pay 12,000, but if you can pay me from now, the first month of August, if you pay me, if you're ready to pay me my income tax of 12,000, I'll give you a discount of 10%. So that I pay 990 or 950. I start paying my taxes in July, which is 1st of July. The month that, last month, but pay me monthly, pay me in earlier. Why would I not do that? Because this was, it saves the government the kind of money they pay to people who buy their treasury bills.
Yeah.
Because I've paid my tax in advance. There are many other things, which you call the carrot and stick, whereby you can tell me, okay, James, if you pay me my taxes early and you fill in the forms earlier than deadline, I'm able to give you incentives. They're called incentives. Instead of threatening me with a gun, tell me, come this way. And lastly, as we are discussing about the KRA,
yeah,
we've not had KRA calling MSMEs or coming softly. Come, let's talk. How can you help us collect our revenue? We also have those ideas, but totally there's a very serious disconnect, and there's no representation of MSME. So there's that hostility is there, that fear of KRA and all that. There are times KRA officials go to Nyamakima and other markets, and then everybody closes business because they are feared, because they have not bothered to create a soft approach. Thank you, Jesse.
A soft approach is quite important.
Yes.
In terms of reliance, perhaps, and improvement of systems, we've definitely seen some developments towards the right direction from KRA, but it's work in progress. Even as we do that and continue criticizing some of these issues that stand out, according to you, do we have practical policies in place that will enable MSMEs to spread properly across the country? Because this is what is commonly termed as the backbone of the economy. Are the policies that are in place actually effectual in terms of guiding these MSMEs in the right direction so that they can grow and realize their full potential?
Jesse, we have a big issue as a country, because we have had the bad luck. First, let me say let's thank our president, because we have had 9 years of his reign, and we've had peace. We've not fought. Even the recent Kamba elections they were so active, but not even one stone was thrown. So let's appreciate him because of having brought peace. But let me say we've had very bad luck with the kind of ministers he chose for the most important ministries, which is trade, finance, and agriculture. Let me focus on trade, because that's where I am. The first CS was a former CEO of one of the biggest banks in Kenya, Barclays Bank. Highly educated, Harvard, and all that, even the way he talks, and he was talking, very smooth. But in the 5 years that he was a CS, there's not even one time he went to Juakali. There's not one time that he came to address traders to understand. And before he left, once the 2017 elections were done, the first thing they did was crack down on the traders' goods, the importers. And we had over 3,000 containers stuck in the port because they wanted to fight counterfeit, which I understand. I don't support counterfeit. I don't support substandard goods. But the methodology it was done was wrong. And we ended up with out of MSMEs, getting stuck. And what they didn't understand was the supply chain. I'm the importer, as an importer, and MSMEs. We were able to organize people whereby if you have 200, 300, 500,000 shillings, a million, you may not be able to fill a container. So we're able to bring in 40 traders and fill up one container.
Okay.
Now, out of these 40 traders, one trader might have stuff that is not good. He might have brought in counterfeit cables from say, East African cables. But now, the way the fight on the crackdown was implemented was very harsh. And it ended up in getting a lot of traders in messes, in banks, in terms of the landlords, the buildings they've rented, in terms of the chain. And this also, it went all the way even to the hawker, because when these items don't come, there's no hawker. There's no hawker that goes to China. I was in China for over 10 years. I never saw a hawker even once, because the hawkers, who are very important people in this chain, rely on the importer. So Adan was very harsh on traders in terms of the way he implemented the promises of the crackdown. Now, again, we got unlucky again. We got Munya, CS Munya. He continued in the same principle. Now, again, we were unlucky again as business people. We got Betty Maina, Honorable Betty Maina. Betty Maina was, she was I think she was the CEO of Kenya Association of Manufacturers. And even when she got the seat, the first thing she did was to lock down Mitumba from coming in. In the pretense that there's COVID and all that. Although the good thing is that the Mitumba people, they have a very strong association, are able to access Honorable Uhuru Kenyatta, His Excellency, and they were able to have this thing reversed. But in the process, when I studied the 3 CSs, none of them has ever even opened a kiosk, has ever operated a kiosk. These are people who sit on this nice chair you have given me. They do not understand how trading works. And when they're brought in, they bring in policies that do not really help the SMEs. And I keep saying, Jesse, and I appreciate you as my brother, that we have an issue that MSMEs are not recognized. They are not represented. We have women representatives who represent women in Parliament.
Okay.
We have people who are disabled, but we do not have MSMEs represented anywhere in government. Thank you.
Interesting. So, but what needs to be done, not just from the Ministry of Trade, other departments as well, in order to help MSMEs perhaps market their goods, especially when it comes to local manufacturers, aid in financing new markets and finding these markets as well? What needs to be done in order to foster growth, not just locally, but internationally as well? At the end of the day, progress is key, right?
Thank you. Now, I'll use myself as an example because I run a small factory that cuts mazeras, the Galana stones in Mombasa. Around there, they come from that Mariakani area. I've been many times to Ministry of Trade, seeking assistance, some sort of information and all that in terms of exports, in terms of how can I export my products. Because if I'm going to export my products, I'll be able to grow my factory to becoming much bigger. And the interesting thing is that the minister is not bothered. And the most interesting thing, Jesse, in the so-called 10 years that I worked in China, in a few of those flights, I flew in with a few trade delegations that were heading to China to negotiate for whatever it is, whether it's building SGR, whatever, I didn't know. And in many of these instances, you are surprised that you have a delegation of, you are flying the same plane with a delegation of 40 people from trade. But half of them, when you ask them, you are sitting next to them, you ask them questions about what they're going to do in China. They have no clue. Because there are people who are either closely related to the people in a trade, or they have other interests. So you find that we have many, many people, even people who are very good honey, who are very good other local products, aloe vera and all that are exportable. But the trade ministry is they only bother about conferences and all that, but they really do not come on the ground. And without having them on the ground, there's a huge disconnect. And with this disconnect, because somebody is employed, they don't care about you who is in Juakali. And this lack of care, until we have this passion now whereby we pray that the next government will have trade ministers and finance ministers and agriculture ministers that are really on the ground, that want to fully understand how trade works. It is only then that we can be able to, because without exporting, we need to export goods. Today, Jesse, I will shock you. Uganda used to import most goods from us until last year. Now they're importing more from Tanzania than they're importing from us. We're importing more from both Tanzania and Uganda than we're exporting to them. What does that tell you? Our industries are dying. And the industries don't matter whether it's that small guy making chicos, or it's the Chandaria group, or it's these other companies that manufacture tires and all that. It doesn't matter. What is happening is Kenya is shrinking, our market. Ethiopia, we are being overtaken by Ethiopia, Uganda and Tanzania in terms of manufacturing.
Well, that's worrying,
yeah,
I must
very
say.
So
a lot needs to be done. Is there progress from where you sit? Since you're an insider, are we moving towards the right direction? Are the wheels moving?
Jesse, thank you for your question. What I can tell you, in business we say, if you're not growing, you are dying. And Kenya's manufacturing is dying, both agriculture and... in 6 months' time, this year, in the first 6 months, up to June 30th, we imported food worth 103 billion. Would you believe it? Whether it is from Singapore or from Brazil, sugar from Brazil, or it's maize from Uganda or Tanzania, 103 billion. When Uhuru Kenyatta's government came in power in 2003, we were only importing between 25 and 30 billion worth of food every year. Now we're talking about 103 billion. That is more than 3 times. Our population has not grown 3 times. It may have grown by 10% or 15%. So there's something wrong with agriculture. Serious problem. And we will talk about agriculture because food is sensitive to everybody. For me to have come to be in your session, I needed to have eaten breakfast for me to have power. Otherwise, I will not have power. From the study I've done myself and talking to farmers and all that, because when you go to a place like Githongori, the Rift Valley, where the food basket, what you call we call it as a basket, the food basket for Kenya. All farmers that I've talked to cry. They cry because of three things. One, they say that our inputs are too expensive. And I'll come to the example that we talked about last time, that we can have a container of fertilizer costing 250,000 to transport from Mombasa, because Uganda doesn't have a port, all the way to Kampala. We transport, for 80,000, we transport a container to a farmer in Githunguri. But that farmer, when he makes his eggs and wants to sell them, or his chicken and whatever, he has an issue selling them because the same has come from Uganda and it's cheaper, despite being paid 3 times. So we need to look what is wrong with our inputs.
Okay.
The other thing is what you call, apart from the inputs, because all farmers cry the inputs are not worth it. The other thing is the government has to stop micromanaging. I talked to a farmer who sells potatoes the other day, and they are not happy with all the regulations that were brought in. Why do you want to manage? Does government want to come in and manage potatoes? Potatoes have been sold for ages all over. Potatoes have created even revolutions in Europe, which didn't end up very well for the governments. Let's look at another aspect of what you call now, what you call food, preservation. Because you say if you do tomatoes are very short lifespan. If you do potatoes, they have a bit longer, but after some time they get spoiled.
Okay. So
at the county levels, why are we not developing small industries, to make these products more preservable, so that they don't get, so that if there's a glut, there's too much production. Instead of allowing these things to rot in the farms, why don't the government focus more on bringing machines and assisting farmers to, even educating them, because some of them have the money, but they don't have the education.